Good morning, everybody. Thank you to Adelaide University Business School for inviting me down and for your lovely introduction. Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to meet all of you and to give you a little bit of an overview of our story of Virgin Australia. There's a lot been going on, even into last weekend, as you've kindly shared with everybody. There's a fair bit going on. But it is an interesting story, and it's a fantastic story to be part of, actually. So I'm delighted to take you through my take on it and to very much make this as participative as possible so you guys can fire questions at me as we go, and I know we've got a formal Q&A at the end. But I think probably just to kind of kick off, when you think of the Virgin brand, and don't think of Virgin Australia per se, because obviously the Virgin brand has been very successful in many sectors globally. What does the Virgin brand represent instantly to you guys? Fun? Innovation? Energy? Youthful? Rebellious? Yeah, all of that actually. Fun, rebellious, energized, innovative. At the core of the brand is a real unbridled belief to be a challenger. Everything it's ever done, in whatever sector it's gone into, they've done it, whoever's led it, with Richard or without Richard, they've done it with a view to challenging the status quo, shaking it up, and actually changing the game for good. And there's been a number of occasions where they've had a go at that and it's not worked, but the spirit of innovation is get in and get out. But there's a lot of opportunities that the teams right across the world have taken on board when they came up, and the game has been changed very much for good. When you look at aviation in this country, the Virgin brand in this country has had two opportunities to change the game. So it's kind of, disproportionately getting a bigger bang for its buck, I think. Firstly, those of you who remember, Virgin Blue started in 2000 in the heady days of the Ansett Qantas duopoly. Very much full-service, premium, competitive dogfight, which is a good old Australian duopoly story. But they came in at the time when people wanted to change the game. There was a proliferation of low-cost carriers, this new thing happening in Europe. The Ryanairs and the EasyJets and the Goes, remember them? A whole collection of low-cost carriers who realized that if you managed the business model in a very different way, you didn't need to charge an arm and a leg for a passenger to be able to sit on a seat. And I remember at the time that the transformational change in the competitive set around the year 2000 was phenomenal, because there were two players that emerged. There was an Impulse and there was a Virgin. And Virgin came in with two planes, 200 people, and one route. And 9 months after it started, it welcomed its millionth passenger. And the transformational change of establishing itself as part of Australian aviation really took hold. And it took hold for a number of reasons. Firstly, it was a phenomenal dogfight. I remember at the time, I think, just to illustrate, I think Qantas probably had 32 flights a day, wide bodies to Melbourne. Ansett had 32 wide bodies to Melbourne. Impulse probably had 10 narrow bodies to Melbourne. And the two little planes were kind of, getting in there, trying to do their little bit as well. With the best will in the world, you probably didn't need, 80, 90 flights a day to Melbourne. But that was the nature of changing the game for good. Something needed to give, and obviously things did give, and Virgin, for a number of reasons, survived and grew very, very quickly. I think what's also important is that I think when I look back at it now, the brand did a phenomenal job in really trying to project an image of what it could bring to aviation in this market. It didn't have deep pockets. It couldn't outscream in marketing terms, but it had great people, actually. It had great people. Whoever was at the heart of recruitment and selection 13 years ago, not worthy. It's about behavior and attitude. There probably is not anybody that in this room that is aware of Virgin Blue from the early days don't recognise the fact that there used to be face painting and, you know, the odd flight attendant in the overhead bin and you know, toilet roll competitions or whatever it was. I mean, all of them were kind of PR stunt-related activities, if you think about it, but it got the column inches and it got people to think about it. And all of a sudden, it was fresh, energised, youthful, fun, but it was also innovative because it was in there and it was doing its thing. So did a tremendous job in what it was doing. It then kind of grew pretty quickly. So Virgin Blue was the established core brand. Wanted to get into another dogfight and change the game for good, which was the Tasman, which has been a great place to lose lots of money for a long time. So it thought it would get involved and have a go at that as well, and set up a separate business called Pacific Blue, and that operated pretty successfully, going into markets where low cost had never been a feature of the Tasman flying proposition. And then for some of the island flying, Polynesian Blue was established again as a separate business, but an extension to the brand. And then around 2007, 2008, an opportunity to move into long-haul international travel with Australia, which I think most of you are aware, we rebranded not that long ago. So a lot went on. It grew very quickly. It became very established. But you know, there was some underlying challenges I think the business needed to start to think about. But just to kind of illustrate and to throw it back to you.
I'm a little airplane now. I'm a little airplane now, and wangity wang, wangity wang. I'm a little airplane now. Yeah, I'm a little airplane now. I'm a little airplane now, I'm a little airplane now. I'm a little airplane.
So that's not exactly an expensive ad to make, is it? The best will in the world. But it was relevant. People got it. They thought it was fun, tweaking the nose of convention, bit irreverent, you know, out there. But then life did start to move on quite a bit, because what began to emerge was that Ansett obviously had gone, Impulse had gone, Qantas bought it for about $10 or whatever it was, and it was that. And Jetstar emerged as the incarnation of Impulse. And what was beginning to become quite clear was Virgin had started to lose one or two key components of their business model, or start to take their eye a little bit off the ball. And it's not a criticism, it's kind of, in retrospect, everybody can do this kind of thing. But their cost base started to move a little bit up. A little bit of a movement into parts of service that cost money, a little bit of a foray into lounges, a little bit of a play with a kind of frequent flyer component, all of which started to increase the cost per seat mile, which is one of those kind of at the heart of the business model metrics you just don't lose. And as a consequence of that, it created a space for Jetstar to come in at a lower cost base and fight in the low-cost market at cheaper prices than Virgin could compete with. So for everybody that was buying $30 to Melbourne, Jetstar could do it more profitably than Virgin could do it. And that began to be the kind of critical business component that the business needed to start to get its head around. So a few years ago, having seen that continue, John, my boss, then came in, and really the opportunity to change the game for good again in aviation in Australia started to emerge, because the model that we could see was one that was really not going to be productive for the business or our shareholders or for our guests at all. It was one that we really couldn't win, and therefore we needed to reposition ourselves and really define what the future needed to be for our role in civil aviation in this country. If you think about it, new players were coming in, both internationally and domestically. Tiger were coming in at a lower cost base than Jetstar. More international players were coming in. And from our point of view, we really were finding ourselves in a bit of a pincer movement. We had people at a full-service premium end hitting us from the top, and we had people that were cheaper to run hitting us or biting us from the bottom, literally. And it very much said we need to kind of get some control back here and redefine what we needed to do. So the scrap was all in the low-cost leisure end. Nobody was going after corporate Australia. Nobody was going after corporate business traveller, government apart from the incumbent. There had not been any competition in this market in that category since Ansett collapsed. So 10 years had elapsed with nobody fighting in that bucket at all. So the opportunity for us was very much to reflect on an integrated plan for the brand and the company that was going to transform what we stood for, what we could offer, and how we could secure and embed a fruitful and growing Virgin Australia. So what we divined, and this was John, I wasn't there at the time, but very much been part of it for the last couple of years, was the Game Change program strategy. None of it is rocket science, but as you can see, it's a jigsaw puzzle because they're all interlinked. There was no point in doing a little bit of this. You needed to be up for it to change the game for good, or you didn't. And so we basically needed to reinvent ourselves across 6 broad buckets. Firstly, diversifying our revenue line. We were 90% leisure, domestic leisure. And we were good at it. We were known for service. Our people were fantastic. Lots of lovely, smiley, happy people who wanted to do their job, and guests felt that was a pretty pleasurable experience. But all of our eggs were in one basket. We were not in the business or corporate market to any great extent. We were not in the mining and resources regional Australia market to any extent, and we were playing a little bit with international. So our revenue was all sitting in one bucket. Very, very exposed to external factors, well out of our control, limited tools and pulleys and buttons to push to be able to navigate your way around it when literally you're fighting in one area of what is a diverse aviation market. So the diversification of the revenue line needed to be the first thing. We set ourselves a target of a pretty low starting point of getting to 20% of our revenue mix coming from business and corporate and government institutions in Australia. We set ourselves a 3-year target. We actually hit it in 2. So we actually got to that mark. We don't disclose the numbers any longer because it actually has changed our revenue mix for good. You know, the shape of our business has changed. Lots of people with these on our aeroplanes, and that's just a growing phenomenon. That is because what we've done with the brand, the way that we've executed the proposition and the product and service that's wrapped around it that embodies the brand is increasingly something that people are wanting. There is a demand for it. It's a growing demand, and it's helping us sustain a shift in our revenue mix, which is at the heart of what we needed to do. Creating a global network, as I say, we were flying to New Zealand across the Tasman. That was fine. That was okay. But beyond that, we were pretty limited in what we could offer. Not only, and this isn't a game of nice shiny planes putting your brand into London and all of that. You know, those days are quite different from what they used to be. But this is around being relevant. This is about having a discussion with corporate Australia and saying, we offer far more than Sydney, Melbourne, or Sydney, Adelaide. We have got a whole global network that you can buy on us through relationships that we're going to develop. And over a very quick 18-month period, we established 4 of the fantastic relationships with 4 of the best airlines in the world. Now, trust me, I previously used to run marketing for One World, which was terrific, don't get me wrong. But if you look at global alliances, you've got some brilliant partners that you're working with, symbiotic partners with the same philosophy on brand and service and people and culture. And then you've got some that aren't like that. And when you're trying to kind of present yourself as an integrated, single, buy it off the shelf, One World proposition, increasingly, it's quite hard. What we've done is build relationships very directly with people that follow our philosophy and for whom we support theirs. So if you've flown on Etihad, they are fantastic. They're not that well known in this market. That will change. But the opportunity of us being able to fly to Europe over Abu Dhabi, and we then put our own metal into Abu Dhabi as well, really opened up a very different way of flying into Europe. And they are absolutely fantastic. Secondly, our deal with Air New Zealand across the Tasman. We are in a revenue share across the Tasman with Air New Zealand. We're very close, very much about building an integrated consumer proposition across the Tasman. We work with the national flag carrier. If we can't make that work in a most compelling, consumer-friendly way, who can, frankly? So that's the strength that we're getting from building a global network with Air New Zealand. Delta. Everybody's got a view about American carriers, one way or another. whatever your view is, Delta's probably at the top or near the top. That they're a growing business, incredibly relevant, a very significant investment in consumer, and a great partner to work with a big and dense network right across the US, and our flying into LA dovetails in with that, which is good. And lastly, the relationship, which is perhaps the most recent, with Singapore Airlines. You know, if you're going to have a relationship with anybody, Singapore is also one of the ones you want to have one with. You know, their views on service, their brand, that's all synonymous with Singapore girl and superb Asian service and exquisite finesse and polish is what they bring to the party. And the relationship we got with Singapore, providing us the only opportunity out of Australia to be able to fly to Europe over Asia as well as the Middle East, is a really fantastic fourth pillar, if you like, to our global strategy. You mentioned the results earlier. One of the challenges that we've had over the last year, we had to go through a big transformational year. We had to go through a big transformational year because there was a lot of our back of house that needed to be reinvented to be able to do all the stuff I'm talking about. At the heart of it was a global distribution system. We didn't have one. The systems that we had were very much for a low-cost carrier, very much online, purchase your seat, very, very simple, not geared up for frequent flyer programs and premium tiers and global alliances and ticketed travel as well as ticketless travel. So we needed to change our overall GDS approach. So being able now, from January, to have our new Sabresonic system that was cut across and implemented within a year, which is unheard of, and the residual revenue-related streams that need to be plugged in came online pretty quickly thereafter, is pretty unheard of. But it means that those alliances that I've talked about now can actively sell us. Travel agents sitting in somewhere in the middle of the US can now book us right the way through to Adelaide or to Mackay or anywhere else where previously they couldn't. So it really is some back-of-house fundamental system-related stuff we needed to do. So it's not just about, you know, a nice TV commercial and smiley faces. It's the fundamental infrastructure you need behind all of that so that the brand can be fundamentally substantiated by the back-of-house proposition that you can create. Access to growth markets. Again, as I said, we were very limited. We've done a lot of work in that area. Since within Queensland, I don't know if you've seen our little prop jobs, our little bug smashers, our ATRs that fly around, buzzing around in Queensland to Emerald and Rockhampton and Gladstone and places that we just couldn't go. The fleet that we had, you couldn't afford to put them into those places. Jet aeroplanes not required. Couldn't make a dime on it. So in changing the fleet and doing a deal at the time to bring those aircraft in gave us relevance and presence, initially from a limited perspective, but a very quick growing perspective into country Queensland. We did our deal last year in buying SkyWest, 100% of SkyWest. Our brand awareness and consideration in WA was not great. Reason for that being, people kind of go, oh yeah, aren't Virgin the ones with the smiley faces and no food? That might be okay if you're going to Brizzy or Adelaide or somewhere, but I'm not really going to do that for 4.5 hours from Perth. So very difficult to give people a reason to believe. The story in Perth, trust me, is changing dramatically. Our deal with SkyWest has given us an instant foothold into the mining and resources sector and to regional flying in WA, which is fantastic. There is a new Terminal 2 that's been built for low-cost and regional carriers that we have gone into with our SkyWest proposition. We're building a brand new terminal with Perth Airport that will be open in July next year, and we've got wide-bodied, fantastic economy and business class service back and forwards from the East Coast into Perth. So we've gone from zero to rapidly becoming hero on Perth Transcon really quickly. But really accessing the growth markets in WA where it gives us more relevance was pretty pivotal to that. Lastly, the other growth market that we didn't consciously pull out of, but by definition we kind of eased away from, was the ultra-low cost. And the deals that we've done now, where we now own 60% of Tiger, means that we have now got a very cost-effective model in Tiger that is in it to win it. It is in it to give Jetstar competition for the first time. It is in it to grow. It is in it to be relevant. But what we are not going to do is corrupt the potential for that model to stay pure as a low-cost model by integrating elements of the Virgin experience that will push Tiger's costs up. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that there will be no lounge access if you fly on Tiger, even if you're a lounge access person on Virgin. If people want to choose a Tiger experience, this is what it is, and it's priced accordingly. And we're really clear that if people don't want to do that, then the Virgin experience is there and ready for you, and it's a brilliant place to be. So the Tiger model, we're very clear on. It's going to be a standalone business. It's going to do its thing very much working in a symbiotic way with us, but it's given us the opportunity now to have a business that is highly competitive in cost terms against the competitor in the low cost, a regional mining and resources a component that is, we believe, very competitively favourable in cost terms with Qantas Link, and we're cheaper to run than Qantas. So over that 18-month, 2-3 year period, what we've gone from is 90% leisure, doing our thing, into being relevant now in all of the aviation sectors that there are in Australia, and getting it to work in an integrated way. Invest in our people. I mentioned our people earlier. Look, for me, when I decided to take this job, I was kind of done with aviation, actually. I'd kind of been doing it for a long time, and I thought, let's do something quite different. That was the plan, and John said to me, you know, it is really, really different here. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, just, yeah, whatever. But, no, it is different. What is different, and this is nothing to do with me at all, but it's to do with me in terms of making sure we keep it and build it. What is different is we've got an incredibly engaged and energized team we work with. One of the things that's been at the heart of that is the brand and the journey that John, you know, my boss, has set the business on. You know, for somebody to come in and say, you know what, we're going to go from being a low-cost business, and we're going to win, actually. We're going to take on this market, and we're going to win. We are going to attract corporate Australia. We're going to attract government business. We're going to be relevant in the business class market as well as business purpose, and we're going to grow this business. And you know what? We're going to create a brand new uniform. We're going to put you in it, and you guys are central to making this happen. Are you up for it or not? I've yet to find the disengaged person, let me tell you. It is incredibly energizing to be part of this journey because everybody feels that they've got a stake in the game, and everybody feels that they are part of transforming not only our company but aviation and what it is that we can provide. So our job is to make sure we hang on to that, to make sure we protect our people, we invest in our people, we give them the tools to do the job, we grow their skills and capabilities, we develop their careers, we reward and recognize in the most appropriate way, we celebrate success, you know, and we truly believe that you know, when you really, really boil it down and you look at what people truly want from an experience, most of it, the product stuff is ticket to the game. You know, you want a long-haul, international, strong proposition, you need a flatbed. Bottom line. Guess what? Everybody's got a flatbed. What do you need next? You know, so you're in a product arms race constantly. But if you've got people that if they didn't work for us would work in high-end hospitality somewhere because actually they genuinely love working with people and giving great service. If you actually have got that, that is the difference. That is the DNA. That is the magic component, the twist. And that you cannot buy. You cannot buy that. You can recruit for it. You can harness it. You can encourage it. You can legitimize it. You can put frameworks around it to channel it. You can develop professionalism and polish. But if it's not at the DNA of the people who actually are going to deliver it on the day, it's not there. And I'm proud to say the people we work with are remarkable. They really, really are. So you're never going to see a chart from me or John or anybody else that does not have invested in our people on it, because it's absolutely pivotal to what we do. Just to give you a flavour of the before and the after. Great people, great attitude. Exactly the same people, exactly the same attitude. But this is the brand journey that we started to go on. It was about changing the name. It was too complicated. Polynesia, Pacific, V, too hard. Let's get rid of all of that. We need one brand. And guess what? Let's put Australia on it. Hardly rocket science, but it does actually demonstrate we're here to stay. Yeah? This is a business that's here to stay. The journey then is very much about everything you look at, everything you touch, everything you taste, everything you hear, everything you smell has all got to come from a common position. All got to come from a common position. It cannot be a ragtag bobtail of well-intentioned ideas coming together in a kind of slightly cumbersome way to try and project the fact that we're different. You're only going to get the true value out of the investment that you make if it is all working towards a common brand objective of projecting the image that you want to project. And an image is just an image if you can't substantiate it. So all of the work that makes these guys look like this, you know, back of house is a testament to the people you never see who are working with all of the frontline guys to actually pull this together in a tight, cohesive, you know, to be honest, non-negotiable environment. Now, that does not mean that there are rule books here that mean that people can't be people. Of course they can. I'm a big advocate of flexibility within a framework. But the framework needs to represent and embody what the brand is all about. It has to do that. We all have to be doing our bit to project the image that contributes to the overall sense of what people think of Virgin Australia. Corporate identity, as far as the aeroplane is concerned, you know, everybody's got a view. You know, trust me, anybody got anything to do with marketing or design, everybody's got a view. But, you know, it's clean, it's fresh, it's new, it's got a professional touch to it. You may hate it, you may love it, but it's, one way or another, it's moving it on significantly. These were our cabins of our aeroplanes. We did not have business class. Business class only went in January of last year. We had a premium economy, but we did have business class to LA. How can you have business class one and not the other? So again, we were just not relevant. Business people were not flying in airplanes that looked like that. So we needed to address all of that. That turned into the economy cabin, all the same look, feel, and symbiotic with the identity, and actually symbiotic with the uniform. That red uniform was put right in the middle of that cabin when it was designed, so you could really get a sense of how the whole thing hung together. So there you go, you get a good sense of it. That's the business class that we put in 2011, alongside a major training program to take what was brilliant service and add the components to it that business class really needed. What was the essence of finesse and polish that needed to be now weaved into the way we presented ourselves? You know, how do you now create a more intuitive service? The business person that's frankly exhausted and doesn't want to talk to anybody versus the business person that desperately wants to forget about their day job and have a chat to somebody. You know, how do you teach people to know what intuitive service looks like and have confidence in being able to do it? And that very much was the kind of segmented journey we wanted to go on and bring in business class in. This was the kind of seduction into lounges I talked about 10 years ago. You know, people felt at Virgin Blue at the time we needed some kind of a lounge, and that's directionally where the guys did, which was a good foot in the door. We transformed the lounge proposition. One of the things in my intro, frankly, on a daily basis, is capital expenditure proposals to expand lounges. So you know, right now, we've got a 370-seater lounge in Melbourne that will be nearly 700 seats in December. We've just opened a flagship lounge in Sydney, doubling the size of it. We're about to double the size of a Brisbane lounge. We're about to double the size of a Perth lounge. We're doing something right, because if nobody was coming in, we wouldn't need to double the size. So you know, it's a strong proposition. We believe that the lounge proposition is working very well. People like the kind of design of it. They like the look and feel of it. They use it in a very effective way. There's no part of the lounge that's not used. But the lounge proposition is a growing one for us. It is incredibly relevant, and it's incredibly important to the overall proposition, particularly in corporate Australia. So that's the journey, very quickly. A lot of the things that, as I say, in an integrated way have come together. Is the job done? No. The job is starting. The job is starting. You know, everything that we've done has put us in a great place. All of the different bits are working. They're working together in an integrated way. The opportunity moving forward for now, as part of the game on phase of game change, is to unlock all of its potential. So one of the first things I think that started to reflect that was about a year ago, when we actually believed, from a consumer perspective, a lot of the key components were now in place. That was our opportunity to say to Australia, you know, think of us differently. So we created this TV commercial, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but think of the previous one, I'm a Little Aeroplane, and think of this one in terms of the journey and what it is that I've just been talking about.
It's wonderful, it's marvelous. You should care for me. It's awful nice, it's paradise. It's what I love to see. You made my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous. Oh, it's wonderful, it's marvelous that you should care for me. It's wonderful, it's marvelous that you should care for me.
I have a feeling that John Borghetti was very lucky not to get the Qantas job because my first question, because I always reserve the right to ask the first question, is it possible that he could have done that at Qantas given the industrial relations framework that Qantas has because of its age and the industrial background that they come from, and the fact that they've moved from a regulated two-airline back in the 90s into trying to be in a competitive environment but couldn't change all of those infrastructure, and I mean infrastructure, those industrial relations frameworks, because I actually was seconded out of TNT and worked for Ansett to help them prepare for a deregulated environment, and it's very hard to teach people the difference in working in a competitive environment. And so what do you think Qantas's challenges are over the long term, given that? I know that you're not meant to talk too much about your competition, but it's fascinating.
Look, I think Qantas's challenges are pretty well known. I think there's a lot of discussion that's gone on for quite a long time about all businesses, and I think in aviation people take a particular keen interest in it. So I think whatever the challenges Qantas are dealing with, I think are pretty self-evident. I do think in aviation, though, that I think in service and hospitality in general, your people have got to be at the heart of it. They really have. As I say, a proposition is a proposition only if all of the bits work together. And if you've got an environment where collectively as a team, hearts and minds are marshalled around a common winning formula, then the power that you unlock with that, and that includes, all of our people, their representatives, their managers, the guys that do the manpower planning, that put them on planes, whatever it is, if all of that is joined up, that is when I think you can fully unlock the potential of your people asset. I really do. From our point of view, as I say, we've got a workforce that are highly engaged. The engagement levels within the business are terrific. We came second, I think, in most attractive employer. A lot of huge demand for people to want to join the company. So I think again, from our point of view, the challenges we've got are around sustaining it. Actually, the challenges we've got are that has been created, that has been unlocked. Our people are brilliant. What I want to do, is actually what a lot of people think you don't need to do, which is I want to take the service to the next level. So our service is great. Let's make it outstanding and consistently outstanding. And so a lot of the strategy work that's going on back of house in my group is around just that. How do you embody and take great people with a positive attitude who want to come to work and go the extra mile and add 5 points on your satisfaction levels? How do you do that when already they're up in the top, whatever it is? And that, I think, is the winning formula, the winning strategy. If other people are finding it difficult to respond on service, then even more reason for us to play our trump card, because that's what it is.
It's quite interesting because I don't think there's any other chief customer officers in any business except for an airline tends to be. It's an unknown title.
Well, apparently somebody who clearly needed a bit more to do told me there was only 400 in the world, so I don't know what that means. I don't know whether it's a growing breed or a dying breed, but...
Okay, over to the floor. Questions? And we've got a roving mic, so...
Hi. I work in a similar industry where you've got, you know, your top 4 companies all vying for their market share, and like yourself, you obviously have to report your market share to the FAC perhaps, and so everybody knows what everybody's doing. But when you were talking about delving into the corporate Australia bucket and trying to get claw some of that away from Qantas, did you have any strong data to know that business, there was a good chunk of business there to be got, or was it just a strong feeling that you had that you knew you could make money in that sector? So, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Yes, big time. I mean, you know, we hear that, you know, mining and resources is in decline, yet we've just bought SkyWest. Is that a problem? Not at all. You know, how big is the mining and resources bucket? Huge. If it comes off 2%, 5%, it comes off 2-5%. The bucket is very significant, and the players are limited. So from our point of view, you know, corporate Australia...
You just kind of knew that it was there. You didn't have any data that you were collecting, or...
We absolutely. We've got a great sense of the size of that market. We know the size of that market. We knew the percentage of relevance, the percentage that we had of that market. We knew where we were relevant. We equally knew where we were not relevant. And basically, it was very much around getting underneath what are the drivers of choice. Fundamentally, pare it right back. You know, we're planes flying every day and selling tickets and this, that, and the other. But if people aren't giving us a go, why are they not giving us a go? Are they aware of us? Yeah, big on awareness, apart from WA, which we're fixing. Big on awareness. Consideration, we're actually the most considered for business travel in this market, actually. The next challenge was, give us a go. Trial us. You know, it's like buying a perfume or an aftershave. You know, you see them, the ads and this, that, and the other, but if you had it actually sprayed on your wrist, well, if you actually get it on your wrist, it's the first indication that you're going to sniff it, from which you may or may not buy. If you don't get it on your wrist, the chances of you buying it are dramatically reduced. What do we need to do to get people to give us a go? And then when they've given us a go, if they don't come back, why didn't they come back? What did we do? And if they do come back, how do you then move them up the chain into loyalty and advocacy? So the markets that we've moved into, we believe are very strong and viable. We think they're very strong and viable for 2 players. Every market, typically in regional Australia, we go into, where it's been a monopoly, we can lower prices by 20%, 25%, because we're bringing competition in. And people want that. People want that competition, so they are going to give us a go. You know, it's ours to lose. If people are giving us a go and they don't come back, we've done something wrong. So absolutely right. We didn't go down the road of going after corporate Australia because we weren't quite sure how big the bucket was. We knew it was a very strong and viable business. We knew that Ansett was very strong in that business. It disappeared. It all went to the opposition. It was crying out for some strong competition. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Just down the back, Charles.
Hi, Rodney Harricks from the South Australian Tourism Commission. You indicated that Virgin Blue, the corporate market, was about 10%. Where would you be now in terms of the corporate market with Virgin Australia, and what's the end goal in the next 3 to 5 years?
So Virgin Australia in Virgin Blue in business terms was less than that, actually, a lot less than that. So the target we set ourselves was to get to a shift in our revenue mix to about 20% from corporate and government Australia, basically. And we gave ourselves a 3-year target to do that, and we got there at year 2. So very, very happy with that. So that did change the revenue mix. It changed the dialogue in the marketplace. It made us relevant. It's grown ever since, and we're well north of that figure now, which is good. As I say, we wouldn't be building and expanding lounges if we were not, ticking the boxes very significantly in that market. So we're very comfortable that what we've done in identifying the size of the market, understanding what the drivers of choice really are for people to give us a go, and putting an integrated proposition in place that we believe is relevant. Can we do more? You better believe it. And the journey doesn't stop. It's a madhouse back in my place, let me tell you. But from our point of view, it is relevant, and we've exceeded that number by a good margin, which is good. Stop here.
Rebecca Bennett, Manager of Business Improvement for one of your competitors, Cobham. You've gone through such a large transformational change very, very quickly. Just interested in how that was managed for the people. Do you find that perhaps the embedded culture that you have for Virgin of being innovative and fun has facilitated the people to cope with such a large-scale change so quickly?
That's a great question, actually. I don't get asked that question very often. It is a great question. It's been a very, very quick change program. It kind of needed to be. And there's no doubt that the culture within the business has evolved. I don't think it's dramatically changed, but it's evolved. The fun days of 2 aeroplanes and 200 people, you know, if you're in it to win it, then you need some strong business disciplines in place. You need a strong plan. You need a winning formula. You need skill and capability in the right jobs to be able to get a disproportionate head start on where you want to go. And what certainly we've been doing as a business from a people perspective is growing quite a lot. Growing in management capability terms, because you know, a TV commercial like that wouldn't have come out of the marketing team of 10 years ago because they weren't recruited to do that. Have we got a lot of the people in our organisation that were doing jobs 10 years ago? Absolutely. And they've made a choice as to whether they want to be part of this journey, or actually they loved the kind of carefree, fun days of 10 years ago. And some people have left. It's just not for them. You know, some people at the thought of wearing a tie left the building. That's not what they do. Get it. Completely get it. But that's not who we are. And that's an important, I think, distinction. Have we lost the embodiment of engagement with our people? No. We have got to not only retain that, but we've got to build and define that. But bringing the people along the journey every step of the way is an important one. One of the reasons I took the job was I asked a couple of the baggage handler guys, I asked a number of the crew, I asked people at check-in, what's this game change program? And they could tell me. They could tell me. I thought that was remarkable. They knew who John was. They knew that, and what he was going to do. They were passionately behind the journey, and they knew about game change, and they knew what their job was going to be to make it happen. To me, that was a workforce collectively working behind a common vision. So it's been a really important part of it. You can't navigate around your people. They've got to be absolutely embodied and central to it all. But the culture has moved on. It has moved on because the game is a different game.
Thank you very much.
One up the front here, Charles.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed that, and I think the people alongside me have too. My name is Pamela Lee, Director of Business Support and Strategy at the City of Tea Tree Gully. I'm just interested in your internal communications strategy. So with a very diversified workforce across a lot of locations, how do you keep your staff informed of key decisions and key improvements, etc.?
We've just, are you familiar with Chatter? We just introduced Chatter into the organisation, which is very much an online, internal online vehicle where everybody can talk to each other in a non-email way, which is good. The best way to do this is to be out and about. So out and about a lot. There is not a plane I fly on that I don't talk to all the crew, and we're all the same. You've got to really get a sense and pulse of what's going on. I get emails from customers every day. I get emails from crew and frontline people every day. For us, it's almost like there's an egalitarianism within the team. We are all part of a family, and it doesn't sound like some kind of kitsch, nonsensy thing, but we are all in this to reach a common objective. And therefore, the next 3 weeks, I am out pretty well every day doing roadshows, all about the results, all about the strategy, all about where we're going, all about what we need everybody to be working on to be part of it. So lots and lots of face-to-face. Certainly a day a month I completely take out to go to a different place. I've got Adelaide coming up actually, but I was in Melbourne. The morning with the crew managers, go into a briefing on a number of the flights that are departing to talk to the guys, talk to the baggage teams in their tea rooms, all stuff you guys do, all stuff we've all done, but you've got to do it on acid. It's a people business. It's got to be front and centre. If all of a sudden you don't have the motivation to do that because you're terribly busy or terribly important, nothing's more important than bringing the hearts and minds of the people you work with along with the vision that the business has got.
Over here. Yep. Charles?
I thought the game-changing slide could apply to just so many industries. Stare at that. Virgin Australia, do you see yourselves as an aviation company, or would you look at game-changing in other areas of transportation?
I think we...
Is high-speed rail potentially a threat to your company?
I don't think so. We've got enough on our plate with our core business. What I kind of like to do, however, is to really kind of play around with the legitimacy of the Virgin brand. So for example, we're just rolling out, we've done it pretty quietly, but we'll be making a big noise about it soon, an onboard Wi-Fi product where through your own device you can get on board the aeroplane, you download an app, and all of your in-flight entertainment, 300 hours, comes through your iPad or your iPhone or your Samsung tab, Galaxy tablet, whatever it is. You tried it? You liked it? Oh, perfect. That's one of those questions you should never throw back. No, it didn't work, actually. Download doesn't work. Crew didn't know anything about it. Programming was awful. Sucked. That was kind of 101, don't do, but anyway. But we kind of just done that. Now, the Virgin brand's heritage came out of entertainment. If I can't own entertainment, I might as well wrap up and go home. So what I want to do with entertainment is very much draw on the fact that within the Virgin branded network, there is a unique content that we can get access to that no other airline's got. They are about to do 40 years of Virgin records in the States. They are about to do Rolling Stone concerts live all over the world. They are, right, I'll have all of that, please. I might be an airline in Australia, but people are, who recognise the brand see it as synonymous with different sectors. So I think we're not getting out of the aviation business, quite the opposite. We are redoubling our efforts and staying focused on what we're there to do. But from a marketer brand perspective, I think there are a lot of things that have happened in other industries that Virgin have done that we can draw on, and I think entertainment is one of them. So I kind of used your question to answer my own, really.
So if I was to walk into another Virgin business, say Virgin Mobile, would I get the same set of values that are inherent in Virgin Australia?
It's very interesting, actually. The Virgin Management Group, which is Richard's group, and there are two components to this. There is the common denominator is that there is a brand license. So there is a royalty fee that companies pay to have the Virgin brand. And then there is or there is not a shareholding from Richard and the Virgin Management Organisation. And quite recently we set up, about a year ago actually, we set up a brand council, global brand council, and chaired by the Virgin Management Group, and it was me, and it was my opposite number at Virgin America and Virgin Atlantic and Virgin Media in the UK. You may be familiar with Northern Rock, a bank that the government had to bail out in the UK. That's now Virgin Money, so they're now on the high street. Virgin Mobile here, Virgin Money here, and now it's been sold to Queensland Bank. When we all sat in a room, which we kind of knew each other a little bit, very interesting. The challenges were very similar. We were all challenging the status quo in the sectors that we were in. All of us didn't have deep pockets. All of us needed to over-index on creativity and innovation. And actually, what I was banging on about, which fortunately they listened to, which is good, was that we needed to do a lot more, actually, to unlock the potential that the group provides to help support the development, fast-track the development of a number of the different sectors, the entertainment one being one of it. Rather than 53 of us all having a chat to Google, why don't you lot do it on behalf of all of us? Kind of thing, and then how can we collectively box outside of our weight? So I think the common denominator with all of us is, as I say, it's about changing the game for good. It is about challenging the status quo. It is about every dollar is absolutely vital to be spent in the most effective way to help your objectives. And it's to really unlock the power of the brand. I mean, everybody's got a view of Richard Branson. My guys are beside themselves when he came to visit. I mean, and pretty young people in the organisation. I feel as if I've been around forever, and probably grew up with him in a way. Whereas some of the 21, 22-year-old people in our team were, and I'm thinking this is extraordinary fervour, but the entrepreneurialism and values that he kind of has, and he kind of talks about very often, seems to have landed very much with lots and lots of people all over the world. And I think the brand is a beneficiary of that. And so we just need to continue to harness what those values are and how collectively we can box outside of our weight, I think.
Probably got time for a couple more questions. Just one here and one there.
I'm interested to know if the brand-customer relationship is still the same. I would define that as, the old way was our customers are fun companions. Are they still, or is it a different definition?
I think it's evolved. It's evolved, really. We were not going to attract the market segment that's corporate Australia with toilet roll competitions. That was just not going to happen. And face painting, we needed to lose that. Was anybody doing anything wrong? No. It was right for then, but it's not right for now. So the relationship has evolved. It's matured. It is around. It's got a twinkle in its eye, but it's got greater professionalism attached to it. And because the relationships are far more complicated between us than they used to be, platinum card holders, ticketed, non-ticketed, round-the-world tickets, a very, very different proposition. We've needed to raise our game on how we present ourselves. So are we cloned? Are we stayed? Are we, robotic? Nah. I want people to be use fun in a fun way. I want people to be, wink of the eye and a kind of, cheeky grin. Whatever people feel is appropriate, because you can't take great people and put them in a box and tell them to perform in a certain way. What you can do is say, use all of those hospitality, DNA-related behaviours that you've got, and really max them within this box, within this framework, and make it a great scope. Flexibility in a way that sits within that. And so it has changed, but it's evolved, I think is the way that I would term it.
Just one there and then Mark at the back, and that's probably it.
I was just going to ask that flexibility within a framework.
Yep.
Obviously, you're in a highly safety and cost-driven environment.
Yep.
How do you, you're obviously talking best in people, but how do you enable them to do that really well? Because the bottom line is safety has to come first for everybody who's up 30,000 feet in the air.
So, as Chief Customer Officer, I have got a key role in safety and our safety journey. In supporting all of that, I'm not head of safety, so my flexibility within a framework goes nowhere near our safety credentials in any way, shape or form, nowhere near. So if ever you want to look at a non-negotiable mandatory component, it's your safety portfolio. That is total family silver, locked in, non-negotiable element. The kind of flexibility within a framework I'm looking at is pretty simple, actually. Make it up, real life examples. There are newspapers left over in business class. The newspapers are there for business class. Okay, give them to our platinum card holders. I don't care where they're sitting. The book says you've got to have a business class. Make a decision. Do it. Somebody doesn't want a business class meal, but there is something in economy that actually they'd prefer because they're going out to dinner. Do it. We've, some guest complaint issue that clearly is a thorny problem. Empower people to be able to fix it. To me, it's around creating a set of guardrails, actually, that people feel that they're not going to get into trouble or do anything wrong, but they actually feel that they can finish the job. I don't think we've really started that yet. To me, success will be to get rid of guest relations, not because I don't like the people. I think they're fab, actually. In fact, love them to bits. But I think the day of the written complaint needs to go. And because I've got people that do what they do, I can push service recovery far stronger to the front line, because people are not going to sell the Maserati and give their house keys away. They're just not. And if you give people the tools to be able to recover at source a problem when it's happened, which I defy to find any airline that truly do this, but I think we could do this, and this is where I'm going with this. I think if you can do that, the individual feels enriched and valued to be able to solve the problem. The guest response is, wow, blown away. We lose the negative brand connotations of having to write a letter to us for us to then read and respond. And to me, I think there's a lot of scope within, as far as flexibility within a framework is concerned. And I want to take it to the next level. And success for me would be to lose guest relations and redeploy the people because they're great. But
so that's Jan Carlson's moments of truth, I think. So, Mark, just the last question. So, getting very close to 9 o'clock. Just at the back there behind you, Charles.
Thanks for a really good presentation. It's been most interesting. I'm sitting here somewhat confused, though. How do you see Virgin? Is it a hospitality provider who happens to fly planes, or a company that flies planes that provides hospitality?
We're an airline. We're an airline, that's what we do. And what we do is provide fantastic hospitality. That's what it's about. It's a metal tube. It's a metal tube that flies in an incredibly safe way, that is well maintained, that is well run, that people, with a brand that people are attracted to, and at the heart of the brand is outstanding people and outstanding service. So that very much is what we're about. I hope that's cleared it up a bit, because for me, the airline bit is not secondary. It is absolutely core to what we do. But what I want to do is drive a customer, we talked about culture before, I want to drive a customer-centric culture through everybody in the organisation. And what do I mean by that? So if you work in payroll, I want to make sure that the payroll guys remember they've got a customer and they've got a hospitality role as well. If they don't pay the people, they're not very happy. If they're not very happy, they're not going to do a good job. Everybody's got to get behind this, and we're pretty well there, actually. But when you've moved from a very egalitarian model where Virgin Blue is everybody's the same, buy your ticket online, get on the plane, get off the plane, fill it up again, go back, do your thing. Everybody is the same, literally. That requires a certain set of behaviours. The hospitality component that has to be at the heart of our business model now is everybody is different now. You've got chairmen of industry, you've got share of voice in this country, you've got opinion formers, you've got business people in leisure with their families, you've got young people travelling around who are highly price-driven. They all need a slightly different service experience, and therefore, if you've got a hospitality-based culture that can dial up and dial down based on what it is that people actually want within the airline proposition, that's what we're shooting for.